Welcome to the Sober and Happy podcast, where we talk about all things recovery related, how to navigate the challenges that we'll face along the way on our journey towards our best lives, and how we could go from living a life of simply just being sober to a life where we're both sober and happy. Today I want to discuss the importance of achieving balance in our lives. This topic is discussed a lot in the recovery and self-development communities. However, as much as I hear it discussed, I know very few people who have actually achieved balance. It is almost like listening to people talk about what they would do if they ever won the lottery. One day, when my life is more balanced, I could finally do the things that I want. So, is a balanced life achievable? What are the dangers of being unbalanced? Is it important to always have balance in our lives? And if so, how can we work towards having more balance? Well, that's what we'll be discussing today. So buckle up. This is going to be a great episode. Welcome back. I want to get a little personal here to start. I'm doing this episode today because this is a topic I needed to revisit for myself recently. I had been feeling burnout building up, and I kept trying to ignore it and keep pushing. But the harder I pushed, the more burnout built up until I completely shut down. I went from going nonstop daily and accomplishing a lot to doing the bare minimum. All motivation was completely sucked out of me. The worst part? I knew better. I have learned effective methods for recognizing and preventing it. I had gone through this before, but I convinced myself that this time will be different. Oh, that horrible familiar phrase that always leads to destruction. Once my body shut down and forced me to return to the basics and use the tools I've been taught, I did precisely that. I took a week off work, stopped pushing myself in other areas, examined what led to the burnout, and started making changes. Slowly, I'm putting back together the pieces and focusing on achieving more balance in my life this time around. I returned to one of the most effective tools I found for achieving balance, the Wheel of Life. The Wheel of Life is a model developed and modified by many people in self-development. We start by drawing a circle representing our life and segmenting the wheel to represent each category in our life that we want to focus our energy on. I want to walk you through this process, so grab a piece of paper and some pens to do this. If you're listening to this in your car, obviously listen to this part again when you're safe at home and could work through this with me. Some of the Wheel of Life models that have been created have 8 general categories. Others have 10 or more. On my Wheel of Life, I have the following categories: health, career, finances, relationships, personal growth, fun and recreation, and contribution. A lot of people ask me, why don't you have sobriety or recovery on your wheel? That is because my recovery encompasses all of those other areas of life and does not need to be a separate piece of the wheel. Now, suppose you are new in recovery and a lot of your effort needs to be spent on sobriety-specific activities like listening to podcasts or learning more about sobriety. In that case, your wheel should definitely include that. I suggest Googling the Wheel of Life and seeing examples, but it is about designing the wheel that is most important to you. This wheel will also change as you grow and evolve. So we start by identifying and listing the areas of our lives that are most important to us. Once we have done this, we will draw a circle and segment the circle into the number of categories that we have. It'll end up looking like a pie that's sliced up. Then, I want you to prioritize each category. Next to each one that you have created, write its ranking in importance from number 1 to the number of categories that you have. Next, look at each category and rank it between 1 and 10 of your current level of satisfaction in that area of your life. Color in the piece of the wheel to represent that ranking. Now, having done this, we could take a good look at how we think we're doing in each important area of our lives. Rarely will you have a perfectly balanced wheel. We'll have seasons in our lives that require more effort in one area, which means sacrificing another. For example, if you're going back to school to pursue a career, you'll spend a lot of time studying, and your career section may be ranked higher. However, other sections like relationships or fun and recreation may take a hit. But life is about making choices and sacrifices. Anytime you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. On the flip side, anytime you say no to something that does not fill an area of your wheel that is important, whether it is out of obligation or social pressure, you're opening up the ability to say yes to the more essential things in your life. This is where it's vital to learn to set boundaries with the people in our lives and also with ourselves. The number one misconception about seeking balance in our lives is that we must always be balanced. If we have a free day, the goal isn't about splitting up our hours into equal portions and spending 2 hours studying, 2 hours working out, 2 hours with friends, and so on. Instead, we look at the gaps in what is most important to us and how we feel we are currently performing in that area and focus more effort on those categories. So let's return to our example of someone going back to school to further their career. In this season of their life, many areas will suffer. You'll have less time to spend with family and friends. Finances might get a little tighter since you're incurring educational expenses, and you might find yourself hitting the gym less and ordering takeout more. So you will be out of balance for a period of time, but the result might be a higher ability to fill in those other areas in the future. Your career will be improved, which might mean a raise, which could mean taking your family on more vacations or finally buying a house in the neighborhood you've always wanted to raise your family in. However, even though we make some sacrifices, if we neglect entirely other areas of our life, we are on a path to burnout, which is what I recently experienced. Almost all my energy was split between the increasing demands of my job and trying to continue to grow what I'm doing here with this podcast and spreading the message of recovery in as many ways as possible. In doing this, I almost completely neglected every other category of my life. I pretty much stopped hanging out with friends and family. I never worked out. My eating habits took a nosedive, and I definitely was not going out and doing anything fun. Now, I love what I'm doing with the Sober and Happy podcast and community, and I've put a lot of effort into that. I want to create more tools to help as many people as possible. I told myself it was worth it to neglect every other area of my life completely, and as a result, I set unrealistic expectations and goals for myself around it. While doing this, I forgot the important lesson I have learned before, but chose to ignore it. If you get burnt out, no area of your life will get any focus and you will not get anything done. Even in times of life when we are going to be out of balance, we still need to ensure that we are not completely neglecting other areas of importance. A tire that is low on air could still get us where we're going, but if it is completely flat in one area, we are going to get stuck. So if you're feeling unbalanced right now, are experiencing chronic stress, or feeling burnout coming on, here's what you should look at. Where does your wheel look out of alignment? This could be an area you are completely neglecting or areas that are highest in priority but do not seem to be getting the level of attention that matches where you rank them in that prioritization. For example, if your 8th ranked category is a little lower than the rest, that's not a big concern. However, if you have something ranked number 1, but that 8th ranked category is getting more energy than your number 1, that is likely causing you much of the negative emotions that you're feeling, and you should shift some of that energy from number 8 to number 1. Remember, anytime you decide to increase a specific area of your wheel, it will come at a sacrifice. If you're at 100% capacity with your time and energy and want to focus more on your relationships, you have to look at the other segments and decide which area you need to scale back on. It may be choosing not to stay at work late every night and instead making sure you get home for dinner or have an evening free to meet up with friends. However, I find that we all have a lot of waste in our lives, and we could eliminate that before choosing another area to give in. For most of us, all we have to do is look at our weekly screen time, and we'll see that we often spend a lot of our time staring at our cell phones. Yes, some of this could be areas where we're contributing to parts of our wheels, like staying in touch with friends or watching motivational videos on YouTube. However, the average American spends 5.5 hours on their phone each day, much of that time mindlessly scrolling social media. So when you're looking at areas to sacrifice to increase in another category, the first place I would look is for the time that we are spending that does not add to the areas that are most important to us in our lives. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, but to strive for progress. A balanced life supports long-term sobriety and overall happiness. By focusing on all areas of our lives, we create a strong foundation for our recovery and our lives. Utilizing tools like the Wheel of Life can help us find balance and avoid burnout. By setting boundaries, practicing self-care, and regularly assessing our lives, we can create a fulfilling, sober, and happy life. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here's your weekly challenge. This one has 2 parts. I really want you to work through this exercise I laid out in this episode, as I think it'll be incredibly beneficial for you. The second part is to post it in the Sober and Happy community on Facebook to share the work that you have done and encourage others to do the same. That is my weekly challenge for you this episode. New episodes come out each Friday, so I look forward to connecting with you next week. And as always, thank you so much for listening and keep living sober and happy.